Jennifer, James, it's a pleasure to have you on Film Companion.
Thanks for having us.
We're so happy to be here.
So you made quite the Bollywood entry, shaking hands with Akshay Kumar as he was on fire, literally.
Yes.
I mean, I just need to know, how much did you know about that?
I will tell you
Because you put out your hand very gingerly like this.
I know. Basically, the truth is, before I came to India, my team went over and said, okay, this is what your schedule is. He wanted to do some stunt with you, but we're not doing that now. And I didn't ask any questions. I was like, okay. They were just running through a lot of information. And when I got there and met him in his trailer, he was, first of all, so lovely, such a great guy. But he said, oh, I really wished that I could shake your hand while I'm on fire. And I said, great, let's do it. So within I think 15, 20 minutes, we were out there and we did it. And then we did it again. He did it twice. He's such a perfectionist. He was not happy with the first fire, so he relit himself.
we were in a trailer about 100 meters from the stage, and as soon as Jen agreed to do the fire stunt, it was a ripple of, she just agreed to do it. And it got all the way back to the stage, so it set off this cascade to make it happen.
That was great. I was like, what's going to happen? It was funny. I heard one of our people behind me say, is there a blanket or something nearby, in case he has to run and rush me and roll me on the ground or something? I knew I wasn't going to catch on fire. This guy's not going to take any risk, and I knew he had a controlled fire on his body. So, and I wasn't going to, fall into him or anything. I just, but yeah, it was funny. I think by the second time I came out dancing, I was like, oh, here we go again. I can dance with them now, right?
Did you not warn her, given that you know the landscape now, that you can expect all sorts of craziness in Bollywood?
Well, I took the fire one over. He originally wanted to come in a helicopter with Jen, the two of them in a hammock. And
I learned this afterward.
So fire was the compromise. So
yeah.
Wait, you would be?
We would come. There's a helipad near the polo field where we were, or I don't know where we would have. I guess we would have been there. And then the helicopter would come down, and we would be hanging from a hammock, and I don't know. I stopped listening when he mentioned something about my shoes, and I would have a glass of champagne. I was like, I don't know how we're doing
fire
that.
Sounds reasonable after all that.
But now I feel like we have to top it with something else at some point. So,
but I love it that setting himself on fire was the compromise.
Yeah,
that's fabulous.
Exactly.
So I saw an interview you did with The Hollywood Reporter, where you talked about what Jeff Bezos wants from Amazon Studio, and you said that he wants addictive television, that people love and that breaks through culturally. So what do you both think is the key to creating this in India?
For us, I think it's all about the creators here and what they want to say, and the success that we've noticed comes from specificity of voice. You look at shows like Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Homecoming, so many of the shows that have succeeded for us, and they all come from a real specific intention and vision of something they want to say, the creators want to say, and then they also have the skill set to be able to execute, at the top of their game. And we've seen out of India already so many incredible shows where, the show over-delivers creatively, it feels cinematic, like we talked about Made in Heaven, and, for us it's all about the idea.
Yeah, it's the originality in India. It's
and the diversity.
Of these
ideas.
are not tired ideas. These are, this is Zoya and Rima had been thinking about this idea for a long time, and it just didn't work in the film format. And as soon as we sat down, we said, we're dying to work with you. What do you want to do? It just poured out of them. We have to do this, and it's great. Yeah. So it's so wonderful to meet people, talent like that has been thinking about these ideas. And Jen's been meeting some of the other folks we're doing shows with, like Kabir Khan, and it was the same discussion we had with him the first time we met him several years back. What do you want to do? And he said, well, if there's this great story about the Indian National Army and it doesn't work in a film, that sounds amazing. Let's do that.
They don't want to just do a show. They want to do something they care about and spend their time and their energy and their passion on. So, like all of us. So that's really what we lean into.
You had said last year that the strategy for Amazon would be to, of course, work with local artists who've done features, so that there is a certain standard.
Quality bar,
but to bring showrunners in from the US to sort of do workshops on how to structure shows. I was just wondering, how did that go? Was there any culture clash? Did our guys?
No, it went so wonderfully. I think I got some bonus points with Jen because they started the writers that came started sending her messages.
It went so well that 3 of them, especially 2, they wanted to come with me on this trip, and they keep sending me text messages like, "Oh, you're with Vikram, that's my friend." So they all, they really bonded, and I think they had such a great experience, collaborative experience, really supporting the visions of the creators here, while really just trying to guide them on storytelling tenets moving forward to create that addictive thing that we talked about, addictive series, and not try to micromanage their idea or deter them. They were just there to support and lend some advice and guidance, and I think it was very productive.
So I know, of course, you don't share any numbers or any of the information that you have on all the millions of people that are watching these shows. But is there anything unique about the Indian audience? Is there anything you only find here?
Anything we only find in India? I think there is no country in the world that's more film crazy than India. So it is a country that, when we started making series, we said, how are people going to respond to this different format? Yeah. Are they gonna love it because it's so different? Or are they going to say, no, I'll stick with films. I love my films.
Right, and how are creators going to respond?
And how are the creators? So that the talent too, and so the reception has been much better than we ever could have imagined. Where from the talent, from the customers, everybody says, wow, like this is cinema quality, but it's so much more involved, and I get to see these. So Inside Edge, our first round of series, they're all coming back now, this year, next year. Breathe 2, we went to the set yesterday. So people will, reconnect with these characters this year and then again next year. And it creates such a bond between us and our customers. So it's been wonderful.
What's the biggest challenge? It is a market that honestly, when the studios came in, several years ago, when Sony Pictures tried to make a movie here, they couldn't figure it out. All those movies bombed one after the other because it's just so complex. There's so many different languages. There's so many kinds of Indias and so many audiences. What's been the biggest challenge for you both?
Biggest challenge has been just the sheer number of opportunities. Like we want to do stuff in Tamil, we want to do stuff in Telugu, we want to tell stories for all kinds of customers. And as you said, we have all different kinds of customers here and around the world. So, how do you, at first it's daunting. You're like, where do we start? We have to do all these things, and you just start knocking them down one at a time. Meeting as many people as possible, hearing ideas, and
the great news is that it's an opportunity to stand up to that challenge. Is the talent that we've met here and that we are cultivating long-term relationships with. Their passion and their slate is so diverse. So they are not just like, oh, I only make this kind of movie, or I'm only in comedy, or I'm only in action movies, or I'm only in Hindi. They're diversifying within their slate. So it really is a pleasure for us to be able to have those relationships and then rely on them to continue to amplify that diverse storytelling across India.
You've also talked, Jennifer, about creating more programming for women. Is that going to be something for India as well?
Yes, and I see so many. Today was a great example. This morning with Made in Heaven, to see that team of women up there directing, executing, show running that show, and for me, it's an important, really important strategy. But it's for so many different reasons, but mostly because there's great shows that come out of diverse points of view, and you have to be able to explore that. And a woman with a strong point of view and an intention to tell a story can be as compelling as anything. And I don't think we should discriminate in this business against anyone. I feel like we should be really exploring all diverse points of view, men and women aside. So that's kind of how I am. I like to build a team around me that's very diverse. I like to be challenged to think about things differently. So we're a very open pathway toward diversity in general, but we want to really be part of the amplification of women's voices in our business right now in a major way.
So it will be even a focused move here, do you think?
I think it's happening here, and there are, I don't know, I mean, you could speak more to this if there's a need for actual intentional programs to help. I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are many things that we could be doing here. There are things we're doing in the States that are designed specifically to find these voices and give opportunity to women. And I'm sure given the amount of opportunity here and all the different companies that are coming in with streaming, and you talked about Disney, all of it, there's going to be more and more sort of competition, and you're going to need to discover new voices, and there's going to be a new generation of people who are going to come up. And I think we need to be thinking very seriously about how we're finding and cultivating those voices, especially in such a tight, kind of insular creative community. It's just a really interesting place to watch.
It's been wonderful. Not only Made in Heaven, but our last show, 4 More Shots, Please. There's also women behind and in front of the camera today, tomorrow. Jen's meeting a bunch more folks, so it doesn't stop there. There's a lot more coming.
I've met a lot of really incredible women here on this trip. Men too, but I really loved it.
So post Oscars, there's been all this news now about Spielberg wanting to change the rules of the Oscars and making sure that streaming is not part of them. How are you seeing this landscape, and what do you think is going to play out over the next year? Because it looks like it's going to get rough.
Yeah, I mean, this movie side of the business is a new one for me, but I'm obviously reading and hearing about all of this. We're obviously in the middle of this ourselves. All the movies we bought at Sundance will have some theatrical release from a full ranging back, and we're developing those strategies now. I understand, and we obviously just getting behind a movie like Cold War and putting it out theatrically and going up against Roma and all of that.
Film, yeah.
Right, so we're in the middle, thank you, we're in the middle of all of that too. And I think, and I understand, just like when you were talking about your husband's feelings about, not wanting to change, the preferred, way that he's been working. I understand that. I understand how Steven Spielberg feels. I get that. There are many artists who feel that they want to preserve that. We're so proud to have, a pathway toward prestige movies and cinematic movies that are awards worthy and aren't designed to be widely appealing. We have that pathway, and we'll continue to at Amazon. So we get the value of that and feel it's important. At the same time, I think it's critical to acknowledge a shift in the business. And coming from network television, I experienced some of those pressures myself, the need to develop a streaming strategy, all of that. And it comes back down to customers, viewers. Viewers are wanting to watch content at home now. They're going to no matter what. So we need to figure out a compromise. And it doesn't mean that theatrical movie strategy has to go away or be turned down dramatically. I think there's room to support both, yes. So I think you're right. I think it will get tense, and then a compromise will be reached. It has to be, to preserve what we all do and love.
Yeah. James, I had a conversation with a bunch of producers last year, and they were talking, it's not the same thing as the Oscars, but it is, again, a concern because they said that so many movies are now coming on platforms within 3 months that we're actually sort of eating into the theatrical business and kind of, shooting ourselves in the foot. And because in India, the producers can't seem to decide on a window. And no one's committing to, how short or how long that can be. And there was a real sort of worry that are you going to reach a point where people are just not going to come out of their homes? Have you seen that at all in your conversations yet?
Well, we license a lot of films from Yash Raj and Dharma and Excel and all those films from those companies. They all, start with theatrical, and we're very supportive of them letting them run those films.
Even longer windows?
In theaters. We say, you know what, once it dies off in theaters, then there's a next wave of customers that want to see it on our service.
Why not?
That's the wave. And if there's another group of films that people say, you know what, this is an edgy comedy or an edgy drama or an edgy horror film, like Jen did a deal in the US with Jason Blum.
Right.
You know what, and it might not work theatrically, but we think it'll work on our service, then those are good candidates for a direct-to-service, So I think it's just a pragmatic, common sense approach to just making sure people are happy watching the content however they want to watch it.
And
it's a really interesting topic, though. Thinking about, I remember sampling like network shows, and if you if you put a show out and let people watch it without advertising to try to get, to help market the show, people would be worried, oh, suddenly you're gonna cannibalize the audience that would come to the show, and there's all that kind of like fear around it.
Yeah.
It'll just be very interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
I understand like all of it. Like I see it all like psychologically and emotionally.
Right.
I just think it's, at some point there's a massive audience, and we have to acknowledge that there are many people who aren't going to go watch it in the theater. They're going to wait.
Absolutely.
Because it's in a line of intentions of shows that they want to watch, that they've heard about. We all have it. We all have a big line waiting, that you move things up and down, and you're competing with time, people's time, and that's just a really interesting time to be in this business.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I would also say there's a lot of voices that maybe weren't getting heard because people say,
Absolutely.
we don't think it'll play in theaters, and we say, we think it'll play on our service, so let's support
Absolutely.
that filmmaker.
Yeah. And that's so exciting.
Yeah, it's case by case, because why squander all these incredible stories, and you want to live with these characters. You have your own, you were addicted watching
Made in Heaven, yes.
and you couldn't stop. You needed, but it's a pleasure. And
It is a
it's
pleasure.
enhancing, your experience is a positive one. So
Yeah.
I think, that's what we hope to provide.
Okay, and before I let you go, what can you tell me about Akshay's show?
Oh, wow.
I heard it's action adventure, science fiction,
And more.
perhaps called The End.
Perhaps called The End. That's one, I'll tell you, he did not make that decision lightly. He's very aware of his fan base.
Right.
What do they want to see? He talked about at the press conference, like his son was saying, like, you've got more to tell than just, the regular feature film arc. And it was several years of talking about ideas until he finally pitched this idea, and everybody was nodding, but it still had a little bit of a closed-ended arc, like a film would. And in that meeting, we suggested, wouldn't it be cool if the ending wasn't the end, if it continued for more seasons? And he said, wow, that's like, the light went off, like, wow, I can really take my fans on a journey I couldn't take them on before. And so it's gonna be awesome.
He's very inspired, and he's very protective of the concept. So
It's his concept?
yes,
It is.
Nice.
so we respect that.
And when do we see it? 2020?
Starts filming later this year, so,
Yeah, 2020.
soon.
Yeah,
Nice.
not soon enough.
Not soon enough. Yeah.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure talking to you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.